What's happening, people? Welcome to All Eyes on Cleveland. It is September 16th, the year 2021. I have some wonderful guests with me tonight for our Browns Roundtable Texans Week edition of the show. Next to me is the one and only Jared Mueller of the Browns Wire. And also below me is Josh Keatley of the Browns Wire and the Buckeyes Wire. And I should mention that Jared Mueller is top man at the Browns Wire. Very, very good. Yeah, gentlemen, Jared, how are you?
Old, but I'm good to go. Like Mac had me on the fan at 9 something at night. I don't know how he talked me into that. So this is a lot better into the old man time frames.
Okay. And Josh, how are you, sir?
Doing all right. Both my teams lost this weekend, so that's never a pleasant. It's all right though. Bouncing back. We're bouncing back.
Not good. Yeah, not good. So let's we're gonna dive right into things. This is All Eyes on Cleveland, presented by Blue Wire Hustle. Mikey's on the 1 to 2s. My name is Brad Ward. I am your host. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Keep coming back. Tell a friend. Keep it moving. We're growing rapidly, up over 1,640 subscribers here on the channel, so we want to keep that rolling. And let's dive in, folks. I want to talk Odell Beckham Jr. to start tonight, as Stefanski makes an executive decision of sorts to sit Odell Beckham Jr. on Sunday, and he makes that decision on Wednesday, or announces it on Wednesday. Made it pretty clear in the press conference, guys, that he didn't want to go through another week of not knowing. He wanted to be able to game plan and run reps with the guys that he knew were going to be out there Sunday. I got the feeling he really did not like that whole let's see if we can go on Sunday afternoon sort of thing. And that's kind of the feeling I got from it, and he wasn't going to do it again this week if Odell was going to be questionable all week again. Thoughts on this, Jared?
It's really interesting. It feels exactly like what you just described, but he didn't have to tell the media. He didn't have to tell anyone that.
No.
He didn't against Kansas City. And I think what you saw against Kansas City was, let's make them game plan for OBJ. We're not as worried about Houston game planning for him, so we can go ahead and be honest. We also saw that with Malik McDowell. I had inside ideas that he was going to get most of the snaps next to Malik Jackson, but that Andrew Billings was continually going to be looking like the starter and, on the depth chart as the starter and all that. Well, this week they switched and they put it right. So I think there's some gamesmanship going on there for that first week against Kansas City. But it is interesting because, as we've been told from a variety of sources, OBJ really wanted to play and the team was going to be really cautious. So I think it's the right move to be really cautious with him. I think the only thing they have to be worried about is if they alienate OBJ this early in the season, frustrate him, whatever, what does that mean for the future when it comes to his buy-in, and if they have a rough week or any of those kind of things? That's my bigger concern going forward.
Sure. And they made it clear that Stefanski sat down with him, and he didn't really give him a choice this week, and so you wonder about that a little bit. The thing, and it is clear too, Josh, I'm going to come to you with this, but it was clear too that it was OBJ's decision on Sunday. It was up to him. And he said, I didn't feel comfortable enough to go. So his decision Sunday, Stefanski kind of says, we're not doing that again this week. This week, I wonder how OBJ felt about that. Are they going to go back to letting him? I mean, does he have to be ready by Wednesday for sure for him to start from now on? You know what I mean? For him to play from now on is my question, right? Like, is Stefanski done with not game planning for a guy that's going to be questionable up until Sunday? Because that seems rather silly, right?
Yeah, totally. I agree with you. And I agree with Jared, too, that I think that this week is a little different because they're playing the Texans. You never want to, especially in the NFL, anybody can win on any given Sunday. So this is not a layup game, but the Browns are 12 12.5-point favorite, 12.5-point favorites. That's the biggest spread this weekend, tied with the Buccaneers going against the Falcons. Okay, I mean this is the largest spread the Browns have had since they've come back since 1999. So that kind of gives you some insight as to how they view this game. I think the game plan is going to largely just be ball control. I think the Chiefs. I don't think that it's going to be a Wednesday deadline for OBJ, but I think that it just depends on the opponent. I don't think they're taking the Texans as serious as they were taking the Chiefs.
I guess I get that. Here's my other thing, Jared. I've watched him now for over 2 months look like he's running and cutting at 100%. So if they're waiting for him to take contact, he's not going to take that in practice. The first real contact he's going to take is in a game. So what is he really waiting for?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing, normally we usually talk about a year between injury and being able to play. So we're still, whatever it is, 8 months now, 9 months, even if I don't know the exact time. So I think there's some of that where what you're really talking about from a medical perspective is, the hamstring, the quad, the Achilles. A lot of times when players have injuries or a weakened part of their body, humans, not just players, they overcompensate. So I think what the Browns really are concerned about, and maybe even OBJ is concerned about, we know he takes rehab and his body really, really seriously. It's why in years past he didn't come back to Cleveland during the offseason, is because of what he does to prepare for the season. I'm wondering if it's more of a concern about just some of those compensation-related issues, Achilles, hamstrings, quads, whatever it is, trying to make sure that those things are ready to go, even if the knee is ready to go. I'm not totally sure it's actually about taking hits.
Okay. When he says uncomfortable, it makes me kind of think mental, maybe a little bit. Do you think that could be a factor here, Josh?
I mean, that's all part of it, right? So
Yeah.
You're always going to be healthy before you're mentally ready. You kind of saw, I hate to bring up college football, but with Michael Penix at Indiana, he got hurt. Everybody says he's healthy. He's been practicing. He's been playing games, starting games. He looks fine, but he is not playing like someone who's fine, right? He's scared to take a hit. He's throwing the ball too early. This is a guy who's a very explosive athlete. You saw him against Ohio State last year, breaking tackles and getting a lot of scrambling yards. So I just think that there's a mental aspect to it. I think that OBJ and the training staff and Kevin Stefanski are probably on the same page. Dude, you don't want to go until you know that you can take a hit and you're ready to go. Because that's the worst thing in the world, is to go out there and not be mentally ready, and then you just kind of have, you get banged around and you're just not ready. You take one step forward but 2 steps back. You really don't want to do that.
Yeah, and I really felt that way, that they were kind of in lockstep about everything until this week. And this week made me feel kind of different about it. Like, was Stefanski disappointed that he didn't go on Sunday? You know what I mean? Because it felt like the team was ready for him. It felt like they were gearing up to go week 1 with all of this, right? They timelined it for that. He says he's uncomfortable. Was he upset with that? Was he upset with the fact that he had to game plan all week with him in the game plan and then switch it to Anthony Schwartz, who did fine, by the way, in that role? But, I mean, is that why he did what he did this week? Do you think any of that is in play, Jared?
I don't think it is. I think the Browns look at when do they need him, and at this point in time, you've got a few weeks until they feel like they need him. So if he's ready for Kansas City, great. But if not, let's just really focus on winning these games and getting to put the energy towards. And I think what you talked about with Schwartz is really important. He played well. I do think those were Anthony Schwartz plays, not OBJ plays. Like, I don't think those were just put Schwartz in. I think those were specific Anthony Schwartz plays. So now they're like, well, we're okay here. Like, we didn't even really use Donovan Peoples-Jones, and he had a great offseason. So I think there are just so many things about, who they're playing and all of that play a bigger role. And for Stefanski, it's like, hey, let's just get this all right. Let's make sure Schwartz and Donovan Peoples-Jones and Landry and everybody else knows what they're going to need to do. Week 3 has always been kind of at least by week 3 should, but if not, week 4 and 5. Like that's always been kind of the thought process, because that gets us closer to that month. So I just think it's a weird one, and I think because they talk to the media and all that, it creates this, what is truth and what isn't. right? We don't always know.
And I had Daryl Ryder on last night, and he was made the comment that although Stefanski doesn't give you much, he's always been very honest with he feels with the media. So you kind of have to take him at his word at some of this stuff. So you can take that. I mean, some people may feel differently about that, but either way. I would agree with the overall overarching theme around OBJ that yes, you want him for the playoffs, you want him late in the season, obviously more than you need him now, no matter what. So be safe, wait it out, make sure he's ready. I get that. I just thought that the way that Stefanski handled it this week was a little bit bizarre. So worth addressing. He also addressed Grant Delpit's designation, which is still limited at practice, but said that he has a chance to play. So you're saying there's a chance.
1 in a million.
Yes, 1 in a million. Yeah, I think so. Daryl said 50-50, he thought last night. Do you think he has a legitimate chance? I'm just going to come out and say this. Last week, people were asking me on a couple different shows whether it thought he was going to play last week. I said, I don't think he's even going to dress, and he didn't dress. I mean, this is a guy who, played 1 day before getting hurt again after his last hamstring injury. So you got to be really careful here. Josh, what do you think about Delpit's chances of getting on the field this week?
Man, I don't know. I'm so 50-50 on it as well. They really need him. I feel like this when Ronnie Harrison went out, you kind of really saw the lack of depth at safety. MJ Stewart was back there, and honestly, MJ Stewart I didn't think was a liability. And I know a lot of people.
Best game of his career, I thought.
there you go.
Seriously, he played really well.
Yeah,
for MJ.
Right.
I don't think so. It ended up being there's a positive and a negative there, but that's not the ideal situation. At some point, he's got to play. Again, you're playing the Texans. You don't want to risk anything. It's a long season. Grant Delpit is not OBJ. OBJ is going to be an integral part of this offense and what this team tries to do. Grant Delpit, they've been playing without him. They've been successful without him. So, I don't see any reason to rush him either, just because you're lacking the depth that you need right now. I don't see any reason to do it. Matter of fact, I'd open the door and let MJ Stewart try a little bit more. Move him back there full time and see what happens if that's what you got to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, and Ronnie didn't even get to play in week 1, so you'd like to get Ronnie Harrison and John Johnson together for a whole game at some point here. So, what do you think, Jared? Do you think? Here's the other problem. How does he get on the field? Because you've got Ronnie and John Johnson. So in what way are you going to get him on the field? The only way I see is potentially that dime 3 safety look. So could that be a way they sprinkle him into action?
It is. I'm going to be more cautious with Delpit than I'm going to be with OBJ. Okay. What his injury was, his age, and then we talked about need. I'm thinking more week 5 or 6, but it is not what it seems like it's progressing towards. But you're exactly right, Brad, is, where does he play? Anthony Walker's not coming off the field primarily. Ward, Hill, and Newsome aren't coming off the field very much. Johnson's not coming off the field. Harrison's not coming off the field. So you're literally talking about, well, okay, where do you find him time, especially if you want to get, JOK a few more snaps, all of that kind of stuff. So I think Delpit, he may be someone as the Baltimore games are coming along, or, some of that where they start to really get him going. But I could see him being a player that is active but not playing. So he gets through all the warm-ups, all of that kind of stuff. And if needed, gets thrown in, but just kind of slow rolls into some of that process, all of that. But I think they have to be careful. They invested a 2nd-round pick on him. Ronnie Harrison is free agent at the end of this year. I think they cannot risk another major injury. And like Josh said, injured at the day after, or the day that he comes back from a hamstring, he gets injured again. And so you just have to be really, really cautious for the short and long term, because you need a quality player there, and you're probably not going to pay for Harrison.
Yeah, that's the best. That's the point right there, right? Is you need him if Harrison doesn't come back. If you can't sign Harrison and he prices himself out of what the Browns are willing to pay him, Delpit is that replacement built in already. He was already the future of that position when you brought in Ronnie Harrison.
Yeah.
You're just recorrecting back to course, and Harrison filled a void for a while there. Interesting, great point there by you, Jared. You're watching All Eyes on Cleveland. Browns Roundtable, we should call it the Browns Wire Roundtable tonight with Texans week up, and we've got the Browns Wire's top man, managing editor, Jared Mueller, and of course, the wonderful Josh Keatley with me here tonight as we are talking out the Browns' pressing issues. Let's, I don't want to harp on it long because it's already freaking Thursday. There's a game in like 45 minutes to an hour now to start week 2. Which I gotta check my DraftKings lineups here. So, I want to hit on the Chiefs just for a moment, since okay, this is the first show we've done on YouTube this week, so we haven't had a huge chance to address it. But a lot of this has been beaten down. Loved the Browns' offensive aggressiveness. I thought that Stefanski was magical again in his play calling, his preparation. I thought they did everything right that they really could on offense, except for the freaky stuff that happened in the second half. Although defensively is where I all right, so a lot of people have applauded their approach defensively, and some have questioned it. I'm in the middle, right? I think that the overall approach was right. They basically played, I've got it here, they played zone 83% of the time. They kept everything in front of them, tried to funnel it all to the middle, which gave them a lot of easy completions and whatnot. The problem is they were trying to limit possessions and limit big plays, kind of an analytics approach, right? Like, hey, we wanted to hold them to like 9 possessions. Or 8 possessions, they got 9, right? They were close to doing it. We needed to score 7 touchdowns, we scored 6. They were very close to doing what they tried to go out and accomplish doing. However, freaky stuff happened in the second half, really freaky stuff that happens in football games. But more so, I go to the 9 for 13 on third downs for Kansas City. And all of that to Hill and Kirksey. Like, at what point do you bracket this guy or not leave Malcolm Smith one-on-one with Kirksey in an option route? He's going to lose every single time, Jared. Like, I get the approach, but at some point, take something away. Take one of them away on third down. No?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think, I don't know who stops Kirksey on an option route. The way that they level their flood packages and rotate things around. It's hard to find Hill. It's hard to find Kirksey, especially when you're running zone. I think there's a lot that they do that's like, okay, let's figure out where. Okay, we're going to do this because that's going to get Kirksey into a zone with this guy, or that's going to get Hill, into a zone with this guy. But you're also talking about a defense that, listen, Taki and Mac Wilson played a third of the defensive snaps. Malcolm Smith played a little less than that. He played a quarter of the defensive snaps. At some level, they had 4 guys that they kind of trusted in pass coverage. So you're talking about the 3 corners, right? But Newsome is a rookie, so trusting is really hard to do. And then you have John Johnson the third. Well, you have to have more than 4 guys covering, especially against the Chiefs, who aren't going to run the ball for anything. And so I think the Chiefs just picked things apart. And I think what the Browns knew is if the Chiefs looked at it and saw, oh, you took away Kirksey and Hill, touchdown, right? That's McCole Hardman. Whoever else it might be who didn't do anything. Well, the reason they didn't do anything is they nickeled and dimed mostly, except for the YOLO ball to Tyreek Hill. They just nickeled and dimed their way through. But the Browns really believe that Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are smart enough that if they would have taken away somebody, it would have been a deep touchdown. And that, like you said, goes away from the idea of making them kind of take their time on offense. I don't love it. I'm a big proponent of man over zone. Zone's going to get you more turnovers. I think man is going to allow your defensive ends and defensive line to get to the quarterback a little bit more. But you just risk runs and you risk, Tyreek Hill just blowing everybody out of the water. I'm just more of a general man proponent than zone. And so Joe Woods is always going to be a guy that I I give a little side eye to, because I'm not sure I love him as a defensive coordinator. Last year he didn't have the talent. This year he does.
Very true, and you make a great point about Andy Reid, and that's exactly what happened. Is they said, "Oh, we don't have to go to McCole Hardman. We don't have to use anybody else because Hill and Kelsey are open on every play, but they're open from 5 to 10 yards, right?" And they just took that all day long, and that's why they were 9 of 13 on third downs. But and Darryl made this point last night. They did get off the field when they needed to most, which is an improvement from last year. Josh, thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I came away. The defense did not look great. The defense is clearly going to be the issue, the black eye this year again. But the difference between that game and watching Ohio State, you can see the gleam of hope in that defense because, like you said, Malcolm Smith was on Travis Kelce. There's no way at all that that's going to be the situation at the end of the year. JOK he got very few snaps. He's going to be, but you could see his athleticism. You could see his explosiveness. He's going to get more of a role, a larger role, and you're looking at it. That Malcolm Smith guarding Travis Kelce, that's done. That's not going to by season's end. That role is going to be reserved for JOK, someone who has the explosiveness, the quick hits, who can hang with him. Travis Kelce. He's going to get his, but he's not going to get. JOK is not going to get beat like a drum like Malcolm Smith was. The Tyreek Hill thing, I don't really have an answer for. He's going to have games where he explodes. He's going to have games where he gets nothing. It's kind of like he's just very. You got to get lucky with it, right? Denzel Ward's good enough to where he's not gonna. It's going to be okay. So I'm not super worried about that. I'm much more concerned about the Travis Kelce thing. But like I said, JOK, that's it. That's his role. Malcolm Smith is not. That's not the answer, and they have to know that that's not going to be the answer at the year's end. So that's kind of where I sit with it.
Yeah, I think you're right in part that I think the personnel available to them in week one or what they want to do long-term personnel-wise against a team like the Chiefs they couldn't do because Delpit wasn't there and because it was JOK's first game. Ultimately, you would want JOK and the three safeties on the field so you can kind of counteract some of that stuff. So if it's not JOK, maybe it's Ronnie Harrison, right, up in the box guarding him, and you have a much better chance than what they did. So I think maybe the next time around when we see him again, they'll be much better prepared for that sort of thing on third downs. I'm totally okay with their approach first and second down, right? It's the third downs where you're giving them easy completions to get first downs, and you're just saying, hey, we're still going to take away the big play. Try to get off the field is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Do something different to get off the field on third down is all I wish I saw a little bit differently from Joe Woods. I'll leave it at that. How do you guys come away from this game feeling?
I'm good. I mean, the reality is the Browns look like they belong. And to be honest, the Chiefs had to play a decently perfect game. Like the Browns, I wrote it in the start of one of my articles today, is the Browns could have made one less mistake and possibly won the game, right? Like normally we're talking Browns have to play totally perfect and hope the Chiefs have turnovers, hope the Chiefs lose Patrick Mahomes to an injury, hope for all of that kind of stuff. So without Harrison, Wills, OBJ, Delpit, like the list goes on, and obviously Kansas City didn't have Tyrann Mathieu. Listen, the Browns look like they belong, controlled the game. I'm good.
Yeah. I feel very much the same way that they looked like the better team for 75% of the day, and there was some freaky stuff. I mean, the way they lost was some freaky stuff, and it sucks because it's kind of that Browns is the Browns a little bit back to you because they found a way to lose a game in a weird way. The YOLO ball, Gillum dropping the punt and electing to try to run with it instead of just punting it when there's nobody near him still. All of those things, very frustrating. Chubb fumbling, who never fumbles. Josh, thoughts on your Browns' overall feeling after you leave this game?
I was happy with it. People were messaging me, talking, kind of with that downer attitude, like, "Oh man, that sucks." If the ball would have bounced this way, we would have won. Yeah, definitely, but that's a good thing because the Chiefs are good. If going back into time, Who would have thought that we'd be upset about a 6-point loss or a 5-point loss to the Chiefs? You know what I mean? The Browns beat the spread. The offense looked good. It looked crisp. We're talking about the defense who had, like we just named 3 guys that didn't play and a rookie who's clearly going to be explosive. I'm happy with it. I'm very, very impressed with what they did on the field.
Yeah, I mean, me too. Especially offensively, they were dynamite throughout.
Oh, yeah.
And Stefanski, he is not going to hold back on this offense and just be content with running Chubb. Some people just seem to think like that's what the Browns are, and if they think that's what they are, they're not watching the Browns play because they are so much more than that offensively.
Well, and that's why it's hard to trust, right? Kevin Stefanski, Baker Mayfield, we're a run-first offense. We're a run-first offense. And they still ran the ball, but good gracious, they're an explosive passing offense. We didn't even get to talk about Njoku, who it looks like he's turned the corner in his 5th year and is a dynamic player. Like, they had him out wide in a 3-by-1, and like that's just so telling of the talent they have there. It's part of the reason I don't totally trust Kevin Stefanski's press conferences.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That makes sense. I get you there. Watching All Eyes on Cleveland. Let's some good takeaways there. Overall, Browns are up there, and they need to just come out this week. We talked about it that they are 12.5-point favorites, minus 650 on the money line. I mean, this is a huge number in Vegas. Baker Mayfield, though. Last thing regarding this game, the Chiefs game. Sorry, I got ahead of myself there. I apologize. I'm going to take it back, rewind it for a minute here. Baker Mayfield taking heat from a number of reporters, including some in town. Tony Grossi specifically, Mary Kay Cabot had a piece as well. Tony Grossi specifically saying that Baker's inability to end games or can finish games off at the end, clutch-wise, is why the Browns haven't paid him yet. I find that absurd to say, but Mary Kay went on in her article today, I believe, to point out 9 different times that Mayfield has not finished a game-winning drive, 5 of which ended in turnovers, 4 interceptions and 1 fumble. Now, I would point out that there are a number of games that he did win at game-winning drives. Come to mind the Buffalo game a couple years ago, right, where he hit Higgins in the back of the end zone to win it on the final drive. Thoughts on this, guys? Is this I think this is totally out of whack, and I thought he played great, and I did think he was trying to throw the ball away. Jared, thoughts on if he was throwing it away, and is this silliness to be coming after him for his clutch gene?
So, I will probably never agree with those 2 reporters on anything, and unfortunately, I've had behind the scenes issues, concerns, problems, interactions that created a lot of distrust for me. So I'm going to put that aside to say,
interesting.
Good gracious. So I will say this. This was a conversation we had about LeBron James, right? Unfortunately, winning cures everything, and people, he won. Finally, he's clutch. No, he had Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh and Mike Mueller and all the different people he had when he finally won in Miami. The reality is it's even more difficult on the NFL level where you have 22 players, a running clock, a weird-shaped ball. It's everything that goes along with it. Cincinnati, Buffalo, there are so many times. And the reality is he has a competent team for the first time last year, but he had to learn how to play under center, learn how to change, his feet, everything, ball handling, all of that. First year to have a coach for the second year in a row. And he played amazing. His accuracy was on point. Listen, he made a poor – listen, the decision I think he made poor is he tried to throw it over his receiver's head just to make sure there was no intentional grounding. But, dude, just throw it about 3 yards to the left or right. Like, don't have to be that, pinpoint on your throwaway. Because he was trying to go over his receiver. And Sorensen, the dirty player he is, grabbed his foot. That wasn't dirty at all. I just had to get that in there. So I think this is much ado about nothing. Clutch is a stupid thing. There is nothing film about clutch, and there's nothing analytics about clutch. All that there is about clutch is click, 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 click. I want to talk about something that people are going to be able to, yeah, he's not clutch because it means nothing. So I can argue about it all day long because it has no flipping meaning at all. No different than is Joe Flacco elite. It doesn't mean anything. So you can say yes and I can say no, and we can look like morons, but I can say I'm right. I apologize for getting a little heated when those two names come up.
No, I agree with you. You nailed it. You nailed it. Josh, thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think that we've all kind of been at the end of the night trying to squeeze one more article out, needing the clicks, and bashing the quarterback is an easy way to get those clicks, baby. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like you said, it's just nothing. I don't know what they want. It's just like the same people that bash on Lamar Jackson who just won MVP. What do you want? You know, this isn't like a situation where the Browns drafted Jared Goff, who struggled, who didn't really win anything at Cal. Or, you know, let's look at his own draft class. Josh Allen, you know, Wyoming either beat the crap out of people or they didn't, you know, they weren't even in the game at all. So there's no money on, there's no skin in the game. There's no clutch, right? Josh Rosen, same thing at UCLA, right? So I think one of the reasons why the Browns did take Baker Mayfield was because he did have that edge to him. You know, you saw that in college when he played against Ohio State and when he played at Texas Tech and they were underdogs every game. You know, I feel like he's kind of proven himself to be clutch if you want to make that argument. But, you know, it goes back to the old football adage, it takes 11 people to win, 11 people to lose, man. You know, it's just they're just trying to get clicks, man. That's what it comes down to.
Man, you guys are killing it tonight. I love it. Jared Mueller, managing editor of the Browns Wire, and Josh Keatley, writer for the Browns Wire and the Buckeye Wire. Double duty, double L's this weekend. Sorry, buddy. Not fun to read.
Wow.
Well,
Who's killing it now?
I mean, I'm just saying, you know, those aren't fun articles, right? I mean,
no, it's not.
So we can move on to Texans week now. Let's bring up some graphics here. I got this is the show, gentlemen. Titans week featuring Josh Keatley, Jared Mueller. There's the big old Browns Wire logo. We love it.
Who's hiding behind Jarvis Landry? Is that Baker's head on the scoreboard?
That's his eyes on the scoreboard. Yes, I believe so. If you notice, they're on both scoreboards.
Oh, yeah, so, nicely done.
Yeah, very, very cool.
I like it.
A home stadium. You got to see the flag down here. So home opener there, right?
Beautiful.
Let's take a look at, this is the Texans depth chart. But before we go any further, actually, I'm going to hide this for a moment. Guys, can you name how many former Browns are currently Texans?
Is it 7?
7 for Jared?
On the roster or starting?
On the roster. Let's just say in the Texans organization. How about that?
Let's say 5. You got the guard, the arena football guard. What's his name? McCray. You got Christian Kirksey.
Who? McCray?
Yeah. Isn't he starting at guard for the Texans now?
Jordan McCray?
You'd know about him if you read my articles, Brad. When he got signed with the Browns, I was so stoked because I saw him in person play in the Arena Football League.
Hold on. let me even see if he's on this team first.
So as we're going, why, Josh, you're starting at the bottom, though. Like, you got Tyrod, right? Tavier Thomas. Isn't that where Terrence Mitchell is?
Justin McCray played for the Browns?
Yeah.
I thought he did.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, you're right. Justin McCray.
Damn it.
So that's 4.
I was wrong.
You counted Kirksey, right?
Kirksey's 5.
Kirksey.
Where did Kendall Lamb go? No, he went to Titans.
No. Yeah, let me get...
all right, who we got, Brad? Who we got?
All right, let's take a look. I got it all highlighted. You got a good number of them here, but I think you're right with the addition of McCray. You may be right, Jared, with 7, which is a big number. Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah.
No wide receivers. We got Pharaoh Brown.
Yeah.
It's worth noting that Darren Fells was there like last year,
right?
And so was Duke Johnson. So the number would have been even higher. And then it starts to, there's McCray. So let me fix that real quick. Idiot.
Dude, you don't remember all the ex-Browns? There's a freaking million of them out there.
I know. I missed that one. Good on you guys there. So McCray was a whiff on my part, but we're going to keep going here because there's more. Obviously, Christian Kirksey had an
Kirko.
interception last week. And then you got Terrence Mitchell.
Wait. Who was on the defensive line? Did we miss somebody else there?
I don't think so.
Didn't Vincent Taylor have
Vincent Taylor. Oh, my goodness.
Cleveland.
Dang.
Yeah, I whiffed on that one too.
It's hard to remember, man. It's hard to remember.
He's on the IR.
Oh, that's why. He's on IR. That's okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that's what that means, right?
Probably. Hey, so does Kirko do like a moo cow check or something for the Texans? Or I mean, I don't think Texans check makes sense. So like what is he doing? Like what's happening?
I don't know. The originator of the dog check, Christian Kirksey, Vincent Taylor, who actually played pretty well for the Browns he came on at the end, did okay. Terrence Money Mitchell played more snaps for the Browns last year than any other cornerback in the NFL.
Crazy.
Incredible stat.
Crazier is Eric Murray got like a $20 million contract, and the Browns couldn't get rid of him quick enough.
Eric Murray, and let me get this correct here. Hold on. In my number of notes here. Eric Murray was acquired by Dorsey.
Was that an Agba trade?
And traded away Emmanuel Agba to get Eric Murray, who was a former Chief, which makes sense why fourth-round draft pick by the Chiefs, played 1 year in Cleveland. Tavier Thomas, who should never be on the field, actually playing defensive back, but there he is. And then Tay Davis, I dug through some more, is on the IR. So I don't know why he's not listed here, but he is on the IR. So I actually, that's 8 with him, with the 2 that I missed. So pardon me.
So here's the thing. If we're playing a Browns team with 6 active former Browns, how concerned can we actually be?
Like, and a chunk of them are starting. McCray and Kirksey are starting. And they're good. That was their stars.
Tyrod.
Yeah.
Here's the depth chart.
I keep forgetting about Tyrod. Why do I keep doing that?
Kirksey starting. Mitchell starting. Eric Murray starting.
Like, those were all players that you're like, oh, that'd be nice to have. Or not all of them, but like, oh, that'd be like, remember those used to be like players you were excited about. And you're like, now, we got Newsome and Hill and Ward and Johnson and, JOK and Anthony Walker and Baker Mayfield. It's so nice to have all the replacements that they have for those players.
Yeah.
Well, see, it's full disclosure, the Pharaoh Brown, I do think that
he's a good player.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. He came in with when the Browns picked him up. He was one of those guys. He went undrafted because he had a lot of baggage coming to the NFL. He was the guy that threw the weight at the coach.
Yeah.
If you guys remember, so he went undrafted and nothing. We couldn't really stick and had some attitude problems. But I think he's finally he was the leading receiver for the Texans last week, and he had some bright spots when he was with the Browns. So I think that might be kind of a Darren Waller situation where, maybe by the end of this year we could be talking about him like, oh hey, Pharaoh Brown, he's, I don't want to say an elite tight end, but a good tight end.
And he talked this week, right? He said this week he. Not really even about the Browns because he's from Cleveland. He wants to basically shut his family members up more than it's really about the Browns and any of that kind of revenge, but that he wants to dominate, which I think is just such an interesting thing for someone who, had a great week 1, but last year even didn't have a lot of stats really.
No, he's never been I just think that there's something about him. I mean, if you remember him going into his senior year at Oregon, he had some first round hype, and then things just fell apart because of how he was off the field. Very much kind of like the big defensive attack Sean Oakman from Baylor, or
right,
the linebacker from Arizona State, Avantez Burfict, same kind of deal. Oakman ended up being a nothing anyway, but Burfict was a guy kind of like that, and caught on in the NFL. I think Pharaoh Brown, maybe a late bloomer there, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, he was always kind of labeled as the blocking tight end when he was with Cleveland, but he did come on and catch some balls later
Mhm.
on and prove that he could catch the ball too. So I guess he's doing that now more with the Texans too. And Justin McCray also starting. So a number of these guys starting. I think we just named like 5 of them starting for this Texans team. Across their offensive line, they do have Laramie Tunsil. I don't know his age. How old is Laramie Tunsil? Is he getting up there or no?
No, he's still
No.
young enough. Yeah.
Okay.
You think he's old because this is his third team.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
right?
it's only his second team, but it feels like
He's just been in the
bouncing around.
news so much.
Yeah.
Brandon Cooks, Anthony Miller comes over from the Bears, who had a pretty good year last year, coming on as a strong wide receiver, and Chris Conley has never really panned out, but a bigger receiver. They also use Nico Collins a good amount. Andre Roberts has a long history in the NFL. See, the thing about this Texans team, guy, is that if you recall free agency, they were going insane, buck wild in free agency, signing every player on the cheap that they could. So it's not a lot of young talent here. It's a bunch of veterans thrown together. And the problem with that is they can win probably more games than the Texans really want them to.
I mean, they are to sound like I'm trying to be young. Hello, fellow kids. Like they're the definitions of mid. Like it is all mid, right? Mark Ingram, mid. Tyrod Taylor, mid. Brandon Cooks, maybe a little over mid. Like Laramie Tunsil might be elite, but the rest of their offensive line, has a lot of mid to them. Like it's a lot of mid. Like it's not anything. Like you look at the team. Like I like Whitney Merciless. I like some of their players. They just lack, and so they went. You're right. They went all in on that middle class. Those veterans who will help you not lose games. But dang it, you kind of want to lose games, especially when, the Texans have so few draft picks. Like they just traded Bradley Roby to the Saints. And, you need draft picks and you need those draft picks to be high. Going Jeff Fisher, well, you can't go Jeff Fisher anymore. Going 8 and 9 isn't going to do you any good. It just seems like an organization that doesn't know how to make sense of itself. We've seen it with the Deshaun Watson situation, not to minimize it only football, because obviously it's a lot of junk off the field. It's just an organization that doesn't seem to have a clear direction, that has an ego issue, so they don't want to lose a lot of games. Freaking lose the games and figure it out from there. You're not going anywhere with Tyrod Taylor, Mark Ingram, except for 8 and 9, 9 and 8. Maybe if the AFC South is terrible, maybe you fight for a playoff spot, luckily, but long term, there's not a lot to build on around there besides maybe Laramie Tunsil and a few players here and there.
Yeah, totally agree. And
I'm going to write that article, Houston Texans, the definition of mid.
Yeah, I like that. I definitely like that. All right, so as we look at the week at Texans week some more, let's Mark Ingram had a big week last week. They gave him the ball a ton. He went over 100 yards, which is was a bit surprising. Yeah, he went for over 100 yards last week.
It was like 26 carries, though, I think, right?
Yep, 26 times. And they beat the lowly Jacksonville Jaguars, who we can hit on real quickly. Guys, let me pull this down for a second. I did want to hit on this just because it's urban and everything. And is he going to last more than a year in the NFL? For me, he took this job for all the wrong reasons, and he has no grasp of the NFL game.
That's you, Josh.
If I talked to one of my good friends was on staff with Urban Meyer, and he told me if he's going to make it, he's going to have to get the right people around him that have NFL experience, because the biggest problem with guys. Go. I'm sorry.
But he didn't, though. That's the point. Yeah. He did not do it, though. Good enough.
But they'll give him. He's got. Hopefully he figures it out. But the biggest problem you see with college guys come to the NFL game is they're used to talking to children, right? So when Urban Meyer was a dick or not nice to these kids, they were just like, they looked at him as the only way they could get to the next level. He is their savior, so he can say and do whatever he wants. But he's got to learn how to talk. These are grown men making millions and millions of dollars. I don't know if you guys have ever heard the Jason Taylor, Nick Saban story, but Nick Saban got up in Jason Taylor's face and Jason Taylor told him something along the lines of, "I know you're not getting up in my face. I make $50 million a year. Sit down, little man." Like, so, that's ultimately that's what led to Nick Saban's failure, Petrino's failure, and all those guys. They don't know how to handle it. Now, I think that Urban Meyer's an offensive genius. I think that he's got this, like, I think he checks a lot of the boxes. He just needs to surround himself with people that do the rest, if that makes sense.
See, Brad, I'm with you. I'm not totally sure Urban Meyer's an offensive genius. I think Urban Meyer was ahead of the game with a running quarterback in college and then obviously possibly in the pros. Listen, I think the reality is Urban Meyer was a great recruiter, and while I agree with you about some of that with the pro level, I think the biggest issue is that he's a control freak, right? Like, he's an absolute control freak, and college is where control freaks live. Collaborative people win in the NFL. Like, that's the biggest difference, is you have to work together. You cannot be a monarchy. You cannot be an arrogant, I got this all right. Like, dude was mad that he didn't get to meet with players and get to know them before they signed him in free agency. Like the guy just has this kind of concept. And again, I'm not saying it's just Urban Meyer. I think it's most really successful college coaches, and probably the less successful college coaches still have the same thing, is, well, it's all about me. It's not about the players. It's not about collaborating. I'm the reason things are going well. And that's generally accurate in the college game. It's barely accurate. Maybe Bill Belichick, right? But we're even seeing last year when he didn't have Tom Brady and didn't have some of those talented players, it wasn't about Bill Belichick. It was about he lacked the talent. It's the Jimmy and Joes, and it's the X's and O's. Nuance is a heck of a thing.
Yeah, man. I mean, the reason why I said that, Josh, is because ultimately I know he was ahead of his game with the spread offense and the running in college, right? But has he ever really had to out-scheme anybody in his entire college career? No, he's always had more talent than the other side when they've won. So
to a point, you're deleting his entire career at Bowling Green in Utah, and he did beat Alabama at Utah, right when Alabama was starting to rev up. I mean, you're right. At Ohio State, he had more talent than their team 90% of the time, and he got blown out by Clemson. And he's got a couple black eyes on his resume. I 100% agree with that. But you're not going to hire what college coach that was promoted to the NFL didn't. You know what I mean? When Nick Saban was hired from LSU, didn't he have the most talent? Jimmy Johnson.
I agree. That's the problem with most college coaches. I get it.
Yeah,
but the difference though is if you look at Matt Rule or in what's his name in Carolina, right?
Yeah, Matt Rule. I was just seeing where you're going with Matt Rule here in his second year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he has a better grasp of this whole NFL game than Urban does at this point, and maybe he'll get it, but he hasn't. Like you said it perfectly when you started, he needed to surround himself with elite coordinators that could scheme him up ways to win games and keep him in games in the NFL, and he didn't really do that, I don't think.
See, so when you talk about Matt Rule, you're absolutely right. They're going to deal with different. They come from the same place, but their problems are different. That's why every time, I'm sure you guys remember, every time the Browns were hiring someone, they were like, let's call Kirk Ferentz. What's Kirk Ferentz doing? Because even though he never won anything, he got no national championships at Iowa, that's a program where it's like, well, look what he did with the talent. He was good at developing talent.
Exactly.
He runs an NFL-style offense, yada, yada, yada. Same reasons why you hear everybody clamor for Matt Campbell. I get that, 100%. But Urban Meyer it's just like Urban Meyer is going to be more similar to Chip Kelly. I think Chip Kelly was a good coach. He still is a good coach, okay? But like Jared, you said, he had that egotistical, right? Because he wasn't just the head coach. He had to be GM. Because when he was the head coach, he took him to the playoffs, took the Eagles to the playoffs. But then he had to be a GM. And then he had to cut players because he didn't like their attitudes, because he couldn't deal with the fact that they were making, you know what I mean? And now he's back at UCLA. And you see it in this press conferences now where he's like, well, I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to do what I want. That's how he is, and that's more comfortable for him. So Urban Meyer can totally 100% fail. I just think he has the coaching portion on lock. But in the NFL, you just need more than that. Like Jared said, it's a collaborative effort. You can't just hire we talk about Zach Smith being a wide receivers coach just because he loved Earl Bruce and he was related to Earl Bruce, or his daughter's husband was the quarterback's coach for 3 years, even though the only experience he had was that he wiped some dude's ass at Capitol. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to be mean, but you can't do that in the NFL. It doesn't fly. You gotta surround yourself with people that know what they're doing to win. That he might struggle with that. I'm completely admitting that. The other stuff,
tremendous.
I don't know.
Tremendous stuff about Zach Smith there. And then, but yeah, I guess I've always looked at Urban as an elite program builder, and I don't know what value that carries into the NFL as much.
That's fair.
And especially when he is basically gets to tell the GM what to do. The owner down there, Shad Khan, wants nothing but a winner. Like, that guy is all invested, going to spend the money. It's a risky thing, right? The reality is year one, we're not going to know anything. Year three is really, if he gets there, right? Year three is going to be a big deal. Bluntly, I know it's all coming up because of USC. I think Notre Dame is the only job.
Done. I don't think he's going to go back to college because he's not going to be able, like you said about his attitude and the way he is not going to be able to handle the NIL. He's not, if he's not going to make it in the NFL. Yeah. It's game over because the kid. He's not going to have the same reign over that he has. And I will say that the guys the college coaches that have been successful in the NFL, like Jimmy Johnson, Pete Carroll, when you go back and look at their college tapes, they're always high fiving. They're one of the dudes in college, right? I mean, Pete Carroll, half his players at USC were already getting paid, right? So he had professional experience. So you know what I mean, like. You know what I mean? So you're right.
It's true. I mean, he's right. He's right. And he was one of the guys. He's a gym rat. He's a, he was a guy that just one of the guys, and very chill. And that translates to the NFL because
sure.
You see him now. He's very intense on the sidelines, but like his players absolutely love him, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know if Urban will be able to make that transition. In the NFL, it's a job. They want you to treat you, hey, I'm your employee. Tell me what to do and get out of my face. In the college, it's not like that. And I don't know if Urban will be able to let go. That's the thing.
It'll be a fun story to watch for sure.
Yeah, and I guess where I was comparing Matt Rule a little bit is when you hear him talk, he seems like an NFL coach already. Mm-hmm. Like he comes off like an NFL coach already. But Urban, like when he was talking in the preseason after that preseason game, he sounded like he'd never watched a preseason game, NFL game in his life before. Like that, what is happening here? You know what I mean? Like, so it was very. I was taken back. Like, has he ever watched an NFL preseason game before?
He might not.
It doesn't seem like he has.
He might not have.
And now he's coaching one. I mean, that's absurd. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm glad the Browns weren't desperate again for a coach because Urban Meyer seems like the guy they would have hired, right? Like, if Paul DePodesta didn't somehow just get enough of that, like, listen, idiot, like, let's get a real coach, not a name. Like, none of us would have been shocked if Urban Meyer would have been the coach in 3 years, 2 years, whatever it would have been. Like, right. Hallelujah for competency. Put that on a shirt.
Yeah, man. Thank goodness for him, and thank goodness for Stefanski because this guy Stefanski gets it on every level, and I think he's going to be here for a long, long time, man. So, I mean, in my opinion, his play calling is already up there with like Shanahan and stuff. I mean, he's got teams on their toes like no other already. So.
It's literally the biggest concern I had last year that he alleviated quickly is he didn't run wide zone 80% of the time. Like he ran duo and power and all kinds of stuff with wide zone. And that is literally why Shanahan and McVay and those guys are different than any other wide zone people who are like, oh, we're going to run wide zone. And then that's all they do or mostly what they do. He mixed it up that you're like, oh, look, I'm going to run out for wide zone. Wham play. See you later. He's going right down the middle of the field. Yeah, listen, I'm a big fan of who my coworkers call him Coach 10 because he's so attractive. I'm a big fan of Coach 10.
That's awesome. Very good stuff. All right, so we covered that. I did want to hit real quickly. We're winding down here, but I did want to cover real quickly injury report. Left tackle is a bit of an issue right now, guys. Who do you think is best suited? Do you think they'll actually go? I'm looking at it and I don't have it pulled up on the screen. My bad. There you go. So Anthony Walker appears on the injury report today with a hamstring, but was limited, so I'm not that concerned. But here we have Wells' ankle did not participate. Hubbard hurt his triceps in the game, did not participate. Who do you think goes at left tackle?
Van Pelt today said it's going to be James Hudson.
Okay.
And preseason, his pass blocking grade at PFF was 30-something. I'm scared. But at least if they just, like you talked about early, if the Browns, or maybe it was Josh, go ball control, just run the ball, just make sure you win the game, control the game, then they'll run the ball a lot. And Hudson was a lot better at running in run blocking than he was in pass protection. But it seems like it'll be Hudson with Blake Hance as the backup because I think Michael Dunn is still going to be missing some games with his back injury.
There it is. I was actually wondering if Hance would get the start, to be honest. I didn't know if... But he said that today. He actually said it was going to be Hudson.
That's what Van Pelt said, yeah. And I think with triceps, like, I'll be honest, that's a weird one to have like a... It is. Like, that's like an all-or-nothing injury normally. Like, either your triceps fine or you're screwed. Like, that's a really kind of weird, like, he might be able to play because that tells me one wrong block and something's tearing in there. So I'm a little concerned by that. I have no inside information on it, but that just feels like an all or nothing kind of injury.
Sure, absolutely does. Let's take a quick look at this, guys. Tomorrow, free agent Reuben Foster will work out for the Browns, according to The Athletic. Reuben Foster, 27 years old, worked out with the Jets and the Jaguars already this month, has not signed a contract. He was a star at Alabama, was selected 31st overall by the Niners in 17, racked up 101 tackles in over 16 games in 2017 and 18, was sidelined due to a host of off-field issues. Washington claimed Foster never played a snap there in nearly 3 years. Per The Athletic's Zach Jackson, friend of show, given that Foster hasn't played since 2018, the Browns are probably just wanting to take a look at where he stands on multiple fronts. Browns linebackers coach Jason Tarver coached Foster in Foster's rookie season with the 49ers, which is usually how these things happen. Because Jacob Phillips is out until November with that torn pec, and JOK doesn't seem to be easing him into a larger role at this point. Does this make any sense for you guys?
Well, Josh, I know you studied him coming the draft.
What's that smile about, Josh?
No, he's one of those players where it's like you feel gross rooting for him, but you have to admit, you have to admit that when you saw his name flash, working out for the Browns, you went, oh, okay, because he was phenomenal as a rookie. He simply was. He's a great football player. That's what it comes down to. He's a great linebacker, sideline to sideline. He knows where to go to the ball. He's active. He's aggressive. He's exactly what you want in a linebacker. He would automatically, assuming he's half the linebacker he was his rookie season, he'd likely be the best linebacker on the roster. Assuming that. And that's 50% of him, right? If they can get the same luck that they have with Reuben Foster that they did with Malik McDowell, it completely changes the defense. Now, with that said, it sounds like he's a disgusting human being. So please take the smile on my face as a grain of salt. This is purely football. You know what I mean? So you do feel kind of gross about it. But if we're talking just pure football, in this roster, in this locker room, in this front office has already proven that they can turn bad eggs and make them good. They can, you know what I mean? They sit on it and it turns to gold. Let's do it again. Let's roll the dice, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, as the mental health professional, I believe in everybody's ability to change. That doesn't mean I have to root for your ability to change and have to watch it on my team and the team that I cover. To be honest, I had a tweet about Reuben Foster saved in I'm going to write this article since, I don't know, March or April. And I just couldn't find my ability to want to write the article because I knew I had a little inkling from the Tarver connection that it was likely that they would take a look at him. Just yeah, disgusting is a good description. I think the other thing, just to kind of think through, and again, I tend to puzzle piece a little. One linebacker in, one linebacker out. Albert Breer reported at the 53-man cut that the Kansas City Chiefs wanted to trade for Mack Wilson. I believe that's exactly how that was worded, or something in that realm. And the Browns didn't want to make that deal. Well, the Browns don't play the Kansas City Chiefs anymore until the playoffs. Is it possible that this is a 1-for-1? Okay, now we'll trade him for, I don't give a crap, for Reuben Foster. I don't know, but that's just me trying to puzzle piece, because you don't need more linebackers. You need another safety, another corner, another defensive end. You have 3 on the active roster. Where does Reuben Foster fit if you're not moving on from Sione Takitaki, Mack Wilson, Malcolm Smith, one of those guys?
Interesting. Good stuff, guys. You guys absolutely killed it tonight. Last question here for you guys. Chiefs at Baltimore, Sunday Night Football. 3.5-point favorites. Kansas City is at Baltimore. Thoughts on this game?
Take the Chiefs?
Yeah. I mean, can Baltimore play with the Chiefs like the Browns did?
No.
The problem with the Ravens is that Wink Martindale loves to blitz, and he ain't got the horses no more. And Patrick Mahomes will pick apart that blitz. We saw Derek Carr pick it apart. What's Patrick Mahomes gonna do? It's nothing.
And they're gonna. And Ronnie Stanley is not that good, in my opinion, anyways. But he's gonna be out. So Villanueva slides back over to left tackle.
Oh God!
Right. They lost another cornerback today. Like, they have been the walking wounded. And what's interesting over the last couple of years is their number of games lost due to injury is minuscule compared to most teams. And it seems like it's all coming home all at once. I just don't see how this goes well. And I'm a little worried about Lamar Jackson from a health perspective. And I'm worried about him making sure Mark Andrews for my fantasy team does better, because I'm in the USA Today fantasy group, and I got destroyed in week 1 by like 100 points. I'm going to need something to happen there. So there are some concerns there. But yeah, I just don't see, unless the Chiefs just lay a huge egg. But really, they didn't play that great of a game against Cleveland, so they have a lot to improve on. I would take those points and shove them right into a Chiefs bet.
Following the former Brown storyline, Buster Skrine was picked up by the Ravens. It might actually start. So that should be.
You guys remember his nickname, right?
Did we give him a nickname? Was it Toast?
The screen door. Because everything gets through.
I always liked Buster Skrine. I thought he was
did
pretty
too.
Good.
No, I did too. But he is older now.
What was that? 6 years ago that he left the Browns for the Jets?
Yeah.
He did well for the Jets too, though. He played well for the Jets. He was a scrappy little corner, slot corner, but he may be a little old for that at this point.
Jarvis Landry's going to slam dunk him into the ground and be like bouncing his head down the freaking
You guys are great. Jared Mueller, managing editor of the Browns Wire. And top man over there, and then below me over here. It is.
I finally figured it out. He's right there.
Yeah, he's right there.
Yeah,
there he is. Josh Keatley. He writes for the Browns Wire and the Buckeyes Wire. Follow him on Twitter at Josh Keatley16 and at Jared K. Mueller on Twitter, and go to the Browns Wire and read all of our work, as we all write there. And Jared, more than any of us by far, he writes
that's the job.
a ton of articles per day, so go there and check it out, because
we need those click.
Yeah, we need to clicks. You should have wrote a Baker Mayfield hit article. You would have done really well.
That's true.
Thank you guys so much for your time. You're fantastic tonight. Both of you were on point and killed it, so I appreciate it. What a great show.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.
back. My name is Brad Ward. I am the host of All Eyes on Cleveland. That was Jared Mueller and Josh Keatley of the Browns Wire. Go check out their work at thebrownswire.com. I want to say thank you to the two members of All Eyes on Cleveland, Robert Schallner and Nick Farmer. They are the first two to become members over at All Eyes on Cleveland. You can become a member yourself by going to www.alleyesoncleveland.com. If you want to support the work that we are doing, you can go there to the website that I just named and become a member for just $3 a month, or go to the link in the description below and become a member and a patron of the show. You get exclusive content from All Eyes on Cleveland all the time, posting an exclusive content for you guys to take in. You will be you get a chance to ask questions for the guests in advance, and you're recognized during every show, as Nick and Robert just were. Now, let's talk about tomorrow night at 7 p.m., where I'm very much looking forward to interviewing the one and only Nate Ulrich of the Akron Beacon Journal. Nate Ulrich is all over his coverage of the Browns. One of my favorite follows on Twitter, and his coverage is tremendous of the Browns. We will have him on the show for the first time tomorrow night, and what looks to be a fantastic interview. So do not miss that. 7 p.m. Friday night, Nate Ulrich joins All Eyes on Cleveland for his first ever appearance on the show. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, keep coming back, tell a friend. We're growing rapidly. I love you guys so much. Go Browns. And with that, you start getting excited. Browns gonna get on the winning track this weekend.
Start getting excited, motherfucker! We gotta go!
And Troy Hill.
All Eyes on Cleveland. We here, yeah.
Thanks to Mikey on the ones and twos. We will see you tomorrow night. Keep coming back. My name is Brad Ward. This has been another edition of All Eyes on Cleveland, presented by Blue Wire Hustle. We are out.